Hello, hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here. Basketball Rewind. Another week up, another week down. I'm joined by the wonderful Beyond the Locker Room, Coach Roach, of course. Welcome to our show. Guys, how are you guys doing?
Can't complain, you know.
I go away for 3 days and Tank Nation's back, I guess.
It's either that or a trade.
That's just what it is.
Before we go forward at all, gotta pay the bills that I actually don't have to pay because I'm not monetized. So like, comment, and subscribe to the show. It helps us boost the algorithm. Hit the bell notifications to make sure that you get it. For those of you who do not get notifications but still come to the show every single time, really appreciate you. I would give people a shout out, but there's just too many to give a shout out to. So thank you all. Also, found out there's a few more new Nova Scotian people, Maritimers, I'll say, that
Hey,
follow the show and have been for a while, and they seem to know basketball out there. So, beyond this guy right here, they seem to know basketball. Basketball culture is rich. Good.
I tell you, man. I tell you, Ken, you got to open up the checkbook, man. The next contract negotiations with coach, man. You bring in those extra numbers.
Exactly. Exactly.
hey, man, we saw RJ Barrett at 14 years old out there and
There we go.
playing U17 for Ontario. Now, we did beat them. Mind you, Nova Scotia beating Ontario was a rarity on
Mhm.
many levels because of the obviously population and stuff like that. But that was definitely at that time probably the biggest win of the boys program at that time.
So, as we get into the show, we're going to talk about a couple things. The first thing we're going to be talking about, of course, is the week that just passed and the week ahead. After that, we're going to get into some fun discussions like Toronto's WNBA franchise has a name and logo and colors schemes to it, which, by the way, on the broadcast, it didn't look that bad on the broadcast as the jacket, but we'll get to that in a little bit. And then we're going to have a minor draft talk. Of course, yeah, exactly. So we will get into draft talk. These draft discussions pre-January are going to be a little bit different than the post-January ones because when we get to post-January, we're going to get into full prospect mode, just like how basically our bread and butter every single year. It just gets earlier and earlier every year. But that's the fun of it, folks. Here on Basketball Rewind, and of course, we are going to talk about the draft. And if we have time after that, we will zoom over and do a quick look at the rest of the league because guess what? It's not Raptors Rewind, it is Basketball Rewind. And the WNBA isn't playing. And while Canada has played some exhibitions, they are inconsequential. So let's get started with it. The Raptors had an interesting week. We really didn't play that many games. We played 3 games. For those of you want to know our predictions from last week, go to the last video. Check it out. It's probably time stamped. This week we will get into that, but Indiana won for the Raptors. So that was the single win that we had. I think everyone had it except for me because I went very pessimistic and I said 0. You thought that they would? Okay, all right. So Beyond and me are gonna take the L this week. And Coach, I think you were. I think did you have one win or
I have
two?
1 and 2. I did they get one.
Okay, so Coach, my imaginary checkboard or whiteboard, right there. You get one.
Oh. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We'll give you, as I've seen on other people, the alley oop or whatever. Cool. So,
Uh,
yeah.
I'm a lob threat, right?
Yeah, yes, you are a
I'm a
love.
lob threat to like touch the net, maybe.
Okay, so with that being said, the 2 losses came against OKC and Dallas. One of the things that I noticed is that Raptors Nation was going crazy after that Pacers win. And then the discussion shifted. Coach, I'm gonna go with you because you were traveling. Your thoughts on the week?
Expected. I expected them to beat Indiana. Indiana's got problems for sure. They don't defend anybody. And that was a game in which I thought Scotty and RJ, they both played very well. I think they had 65 points in that game. Efficient 65 too. Scotty was just the best player on the floor, and he acted like the best player on the floor in that particular game. Against Oklahoma City, from what bit that I saw of the game, it was totally disastrous. They were clearly, they look like the best team in the NBA, the Oklahoma City Thunder. It looked like Case and Wallace. I know he's your guy, Kenyon. Payson Wallace, Shea, Jalen Williams. I'm forget Isaiah Joe. Oh my goodness, that guy can really shoot the basketball. We had no answer for stopping them behind the three. Hurdle did not play in that game, and it clearly showed as Hartenstein could just do whatever he wanted. But it just shows that there's levels to this between where OKC is at, competing for a championship, and then there's the Raptors battling out for the 13th or 15th seed currently in the East, as I know some people want them to get the play in, which I get. I also understand that as well. But OKC is just so good. And the Raptors just look like they didn't come out with much energy compared to the Indiana game. And the Dallas game, I did miss most of it. I just saw highlights, but it looked like in the first half they didn't come out with much energy as well. Luka and Kyrie were making some really tough shots. In the second half, it looked like we had our classic Raptors fake comeback for a bit. And you can only try that so much or try to come back from 20 or 30 points down. Rarely does that work. That you actually get back with a win, especially for a rebuilding team. And on the other side, you got Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, two of arguably some of the most talented players to ever play basketball. And if people want to say they're the most talented backcourt, I'm totally fine with that. And I can see that argument. I don't think they're the best, but I think they're probably the most talented offensively. And Dallas, quite frankly, I know it's beyond his team. Dallas, again, they're competing for a championship, just like Oklahoma City. And those two might be in the Western Conference Finals. So it was good to see the Raptors respond with more effort. And they're starting to get some guys back too. It's good to see Pirtle back. And Olynk had some good minutes for them. So that was to be expected for me. I didn't expect them to beat OKC or Dallas. They're just not there. They're still a couple of years away from maybe doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, coach said it all there. I think I'll get a little more granular from a standpoint of this was interesting this week to see how they kind of integrated Gradey back into the lineup. So that was kind of where my focus was, to see how he will, how he will play in the sandbox now. Now with Scotty and RJ. I thought, this is actually also too, I think starting from last week's discussion, we've been kind of see, the Scotty, the Scotty folks have wanted, Scotty at point guard. Scotty's wanted to be Scotty at point guard for the longest time. So they got their wish starting from last week, the Miami games, and now, seeing it now come to fruition throughout this week. It was a bit of everything, I think overall, a guy gets 13 assists in a game. You can't take that from him in this case here. But, I think overall, it's funny. It's like this week has been fascinating watching the coach because he's kind of fighting against his own natural instincts. And I find that almost a bit of entertainment in this case in its own right, where he's fighting himself on the substitutions, the substitution patterns, who he's putting in for starting lineups, all that type of stuff. I just find that has been a really intriguing process that we're watching play out right now. So yeah, Indiana, they're not playing like a defense. That's a whole other discussion. We'll be getting maybe into more overall NBA discussion with them. But the Raptors right now, as I said before, we get more into discussion when we get to maybe the tank, not tank, what the tank look like. I think some interesting numbers are coming to fruition probably the next few weeks in my mind. I think the next few weeks are going to be very crucial on what direction this team's going to go, whether they like it or not, one way or the other. So that's why I see it. I think overall, I must admit, they've been interesting games, a bit of everything this week. As it usually is.
You guys forgot to talk about someone. A certain someone also got integrated back into the lineup. A certain
Oh
Kelly
yes,
Olynyk,
yes, your
who
man.
is
I mentioned him, but I didn't
alive.
talk
He's
about him.
alive, people.
Live.
And guess what? He is leading the NBA for PER after 1 year or after one game. He has an effective field goal rating of 150%. The PER rating that is historic at 56.7%, and a win share at point 0.1. You know, amazing, folks. 4 rebounds, 1 assist. He even had a pull up three. I gotta
That was
give it to him.
impressive. That was impressive.
It was actually pretty impressive.
That one
Uh,
had you going.
yeah,
Oh.
he still got it. I will say this: the defense was not quite there, but it is what it is. It is Kelly Olynyk. He is back. So that's the first thing that I will say. The other thing, just to briefly touch on Scotty, I think his best game was actually the Pacers game of the three, because there's only 3 games that we played this week. That was a very complete game. You saw him actually have a balanced attack. As I said, I think he took 20 field goals. And as again, it's not, I don't care about the specifics of the numbers, but I'm just showing you how the balance of attack was. Out of 20 shots, only 7 of them were from 3. I thought that was good. And here's the key factor, and I said it on Twitter, and I'll keep saying it on this show. What I look for is effort, engagement level, and how often he goes to the free throw line. If he's going to the free throw line and he's taking the ball, you know, usually, except for the OKC game, at least 15 shots is what he's taken to 20 shots. Usually, he has a green light to do whatever. If that is the case, you expect him to go to the line at least 2 times, and that's low. In the Pacers game, he went 8 times, and that's really good. And he's been learning how to be aggressive on a regular basis, he is going to the line, and the refs are rewarding him. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of tough. Asking a lot from him. Sure, the goggles, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, cool. This is what it means to be even considered as a star, is you have to do that every single night. Where I did not like was the next 2 games, the most recent games, he didn't go to the line a single time. So that needs to get better. That's okay. I did like certain things from him, actually. I did like the fact that he still was trying to go to the post, and you saw both, hey, if his footwork and the handle and all those type of things were better, that you could see more dividends. But you also, in a way, this gives you at home, gives us, gives the coaching staff, and Mr. Barnes himself the right amount of film to look back on at the end of the season and say, these are the areas that I can easily make even marginal improvements on, and have it pay a little bit more than moderate dividends, just by having better footwork, having better balance, and having a better handle. And all of those things you can kind of all work on together. So from that perspective, I thought it was good. Saw Jacoby get more well integrated into the lineup, and then Gradey in that last game in OKC. I know people said, "Oh, he wasn't shooting here, he wasn't shooting there," but he kept shooting, and he shot them right into the game. To be perfectly honest, and he was shooting some difficult threes above the break. I was actually looking at his shooting splits the other day. Above the break, it's crazy. At the very top of the arc, he shoots 50% on the season.
Mm-hmm.
50% on the season. And he's weak from the left side. He shoots almost like 24 or 27%. Is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the left side, that's not his side. But the right side, everything from here on down is good. And you see the same thing on the inside. There's spots from the mid range where he goes. There's one where he did he does a bump move against Isaiah Hartenstein into a fadeaway. Not when he's running into the fadeaway, but as a bump into the fadeaway. And that he hits in that area at 54%, which is well above league average.
That was a thing of beauty. I'm glad you brought those two guys. That's the point I wanted to make.
Yeah,
I want to slide over, so I'll just jump on your
go for
point
it.
because I think it's a great point. Like I watching those two, I call them the kids in this case. Watching especially he and Walter going like playing together in the same lineup. Coach, I know you didn't see the Dallas game as a thing of beauty, man. It was fantastic, man. And it was like seeing shot making, elite shot making for such young guys. There's one point in the fourth quarter, the guy getting the run going. They're bringing them back, Gradey and Walter, with Scotty as well too. And Walter's sizing up. I can't remember who's defending him, and he just sizes up at Kobe style and just drains an 18-footer right in his grill. It's like, yo, wait, like 7 minutes left to go in the game. It was like, okay, you can see flickerings of the future right there with you see the shots from him and Gradey, man. Like great, yeah, it was nice to see Gradey. Just those guys are just taking it, and I just love to see it. I think between the two of them, they shot 31 shots maybe that game. I love that. That's great. I hope I see
Yeah.
more.
I
Yeah.
saw a little bit of Jacoby, some of his shots making it against Dallas. I would love to see him spend a summer with Shea, with SGA.
Mm,
I would love to see if he can mimic his game after him. I'm not comparing him to him, although I've said to you guys, I think I've tweeted, there are some shades of SGA in his game. There's a little in between game, which he has shown. There's a little bit of the pull up in the mid range and the fade, which he has shown. I'd love to see him go spend a summer with him, learn everything you can from him.
you know
I
what?
think it'd be
Yeah,
interesting.
it would be interesting. I think he's one person. He's another great person. I'm not sure if it would happen, but like the way he has a way of like finishing around big guys in the lane, like he has some very slick and cute ways for him to get his shots off, in traffic that you don't expect. Like, I always think about that one thing against Minnesota early in the season when he went baseline and he did kind of like a bit of an up and under on someone. I can't remember if it was Gobert or someone coming at him. I think it's the Minnesota game. And he flipped up a little teardrop on the baseline. I was like, oh my gosh, like, that thing was like gorgeous. I mean, so to watch him and Walter doing their thing, yeah, it is real nice to see. Like those guys are not being bashful. I was concerned that Gradey might go into a bit of kind of a bit of a passive role coming back now with Scotty and RJ kind of doing their thing, and he has not. He's looking there. He's got the red. He's looking at like a bull with the red in front of him. He's going at it. He's like, whatever.
Yeah. Bye,
Love it.
Darko Ball.
Yeah,
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 I
yeah. The fourth quarter, he was taking ISOs too, coach. The Dallas game. He's like, "Yo, let me get in here, set up that pick and roll, Pirtle. Let me do my thing."
I think one of the interesting thing is with Walter. So I just looked through the 4 field goals he's made out of 10. Again, he missed all his 3 pointers. But if you just you and I were talking about that this one more make from three, that's 50% and 11 points on 5 shots made. The thing is, he really knows how to manipulate and relocate with the ball in his hands around a screen. And one of the first things I might even put this one on this on and sorry Beyond. A lot of his shots were over Dinwiddie, but but he,
Hey,
he
you know
looked
what?
at him like food.
That's right. When you're a young fella, that's what you need to do, man. It's like, yo,
Yes.
old man, get your pink slip. That's what you need to do.
Yes, yes. So, but yeah, it was interesting because like his first one, you see him and he just knows how to both utilize the screen. So he uses the Pearl screen going one way, and then Pearl screens his man Dinwiddie kind of going downhill. He goes downhill towards the screen as I believe it was Powell. I want to say number 7 on Dallas. So he rescreens for Powell, giving him a little bit of space, and then he goes forward and does a step back. And it was like just a thing of beauty, like just him like manipulating that and like jumping into the step back. That like it's not my favorite shot, and because it's a more difficult shot, but that's like the shot that the kids are doing these days, and that's a good shot to type kind of make. I just don't like my favorite shot is actually his, I think it was his third one. No, it was his second one, which is a pull-up where he came around the Pirtle screen.
Who is that the one? I do that's the
Yes. And then he just like because this is the same thing that I say about Gradey. I'm like, you come around that screen, you go right into that mid-range, right at the nail, you pull up. You pull up right away. You have that bit of daylight, just pull it up. That's my favorite shot.
But when he got drafted, right? And I think
Yeah.
I was a little more bullish on him than maybe you guys were, but we all liked him in different ways.
Yeah, no one was on the floor crying
No,
or
exactly
complaining.
right. That's not what you did there. But I think we all thought in this case that when he starts rolling in this case here, literally Darko could brush off the Gradey portfolio for shots for Gradey and to give them to him as well when he's on the floor. And that was the first sign of what we thought we could see.
Man,
That was a Gradey play,
he
right?
has such a fast release too. Like Grady had to speed up his release a little
Yeah,
bit, especially since Grady kind of has like
yeah,
kind
he's
of like a sling.
got that Larry
Uh
Bird swing going on there.
yeah, but this guy, he's just like you're right, like it's quick. He does not need much, don't tweak his shot. Like just get him the reps and let's see what he could do in terms of that. And you can see even in terms of the handle, he's starting to work some things out too.
Yeah,
He gets into spots.
he does. He does. He's crafty, as they like to say.
Yes, yes. So, and then in terms of Grady, drooled over Walter's game enough this week. You got to give Grady some love. But yeah, I mean, I think. Well, this is kind of a good, bad, and ugly. But Grady also used that same. I'll actually put it like side by side the Walter and the Grady, both of them. And Grady went around Pirtle's screen, same thing, pulls up at the nail, boom, open,
That's how
open.
I like Turtle even using the offense.
Yes,
That's what I'm talking about.
yes. Now, what I did not like was, and I look back at the play, so I have to give flack to the person who it was, but overall, laziness on transition defense.
This was bad.
And it was RJ.
If Coach was watching this, I think Coach would have thrown his own proverbial clipboard in one of the last
It
night.
that was
I heard about this play. Sorry.
Yeah, I tweeted
like
about it.
Grady had a shot and it went in, and it was a tough shot too. And it's like, and RJ was the last man back. And at first I was like, it could have been Barnes and RJ because they got to like. And then I looked back and I was like, nope, that's RJ.
I said,
That's 100% RJ. RJ was maybe a body length from the half court, and he let his man go. Luka steps out, has 1 foot stepped out, and slang that thing all the way down court.
oh,
Boom.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, too. Yeah.
That one. That's yes. And
I still did the
who was it?
three-point.
Who was it that beat everyone down the court?
Yes, I forgot
And
about
the
that.
only person who tried to defend it after he made the three was the second person back, which is Grady. Do
Yes.
you need him to do every single thing on the court?
Yeah,
You
man. He did a good job of holding up Kyrie to a
he
double
did
game.
he did do a decent job of holding up Kyrie, but I mean, it's like, do you need him to do that? Guard Luca. He had some decent possessions on Luca too. Which, by the way, shout out to Barnes for his.
Yeah.
I did post that on Twitter so people could
Yeah.
see. I showed the one-on-one possessions with Barnes versus Luca, primarily on Luca, which I thought was a good decision by Darko to have
That
that.
is a good thing because we know Barnes struggles with twitchy guys. A guy like Luke is actually made for Barnes defensively.
Yes,
As
he did
well
try to
as
Yeah.
sneak a steal near the end, and Luca's like, come on. No, but in general, Barnes did a really good job of that. And so yeah, like that. That's kind of my thoughts on this week. I think we've spent enough time on this week. We have two games looking forward, which is the Knicks Miami. And so those are going to be very interesting games because, of course, we face Miami again. We seem to face them a lot this season. So this time it will be in South Beach. It will not be on the weekend, but South Beach is a champagning and campaigning spot. On the
But
flip side,
the last
for
game?
us,
Yeah, in-season tournament. Is that not the last game for the
that
in-season
is the
tournament?
last game before this in-season
Okay,
tournament.
okay.
And Barnes is going home. I'm going home.
Yeah.
So we will see. It'll be a very interesting matchup because this team gets to go on a little mini vacation in the dead of December, and so we'll see.
Oh,
Um,
Well, that's not happening now because of the two new games, right?
What two games?
Well, the game with Miami, I think, is on the 12th. Is that right?
Yep.
And then they have the Chicago on the 16th and Brooklyn on the 19th. They
Okay,
just
so
added they just added in two games.
oh, so they just shifted it forward or what? Well, coach took away your vacation. Sorry, guys. Get back to work. Get back to
Back
work.
to work.
I was working off of because my schedule. I downloaded the schedule at the beginning of the season, so that's
Yeah.
what I usually work off of. So when the schedule changes, I don't get updated. So sorry, folks, but I will say even still, that's the following week. So you
Yeah.
still got to get
Yeah.
to work. But you have a little bit of time. You have the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th. So I mean, if you have access to what NBA players have access to, you can find a day to go fishing in between. Uh, so, and I'm just curious before we move on from this. They're coming back home. So yeah. Okay, so here's the question. Are they going 1-1 or are they going 0-0, 2-2? How are they looking this week? Because I know that the game, the first game, the Knicks just lost, if I'm not mistaken. They lost to the Pistons,
Exactly.
so they are a beatable team. Coach, you care to give your prediction first? Because you won the last
Oh,
one.
oh, I would love to see them beat the Knicks. I can't stand them. I know you guys know that. This just dates back to like the early 2000s for me. Um, so we're just talking about the Knicks and the Heat this week.
Yep,
Is that right?
that's it. Sunday to Sunday.
I'll go 1-1.
Ooh, which win?
I think they will beat New York and lose to Miami.
Okay. Beyond
I already
you
said it.
next, and then I have some news about New York, which might change
0-2.
coaches. I think
0-2.
0-2.
Uh,
Mitchell
you go.
Robinson's back, by the way.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, definitely. 0-2. So they don't play defense. They don't play defense well from the 3-point line. New York bombs a ton of threes. I don't see that in this case that equation working out well for the Raptors. Miami's got the home cooking in South Beach. We kind of went through that already. Rationale why that might be a bit of a problem for Toronto. So
Oh,
with that,
sorry. Mitchell Robinson, I read it wrong. He's starting to run now. So,
so he's
never
prepared to
mind.
play 10 games per season. Okay, good to know. Okay,
Yes.
by the second round of the playoffs
I
as
remember
usual.
someone was suggested that we trade for him, but it's just like,
Is anyone? I tell you, yeah, no, I'm not gonna keep. I was just keeping it to myself. Anyhow,
yep.
0-2. Let's just leave it there.
Hey, OG's healthy right now. Let's leave it at that. So some trains are didn't miss the station. They came early, and some trains are never late. 0-2. Okay, you know what? I am gonna go 0-2. It's a short week. If they played another one, I would say yes. But I just think that the Knicks are pretty strong. We played tight against the Knicks, but I don't think we're going to get Bruce Brown from what I hear this week, and I don't think we're getting IQ. But one of the things that I'm noticing is that when you play Boucher minutes and you play him under a certain amount of minutes, you get pretty decent minutes. And sometimes that includes defensively. Once he plays above a certain amount, I mean, beyond you and I, we're talking about a different player in terms of mental fatigue, but there's a mental fatigue factor with Chris Boucher that happens above 15 minutes, right? You have to just play him in that chunk, and that's good. Um, Here's the problem. They're exchanging Chris Boucher minutes for Kelly Olynk, who everyone seems to think is a center, which I didn't see Darko play him as a center, just so folks know. So you got to stop that. That dude can't guard a shadow right now. His back still be hurting. I really don't like to hear a guy with back injuries and then who was not a stalwart defender to begin with and suggesting that they will be halfway decent defensively. I'm going to take the under on this week. Picking the Porter. So, shout out to the Rico man himself. Yeah, I think that wraps up this week. Time to talk about the WNBA. We all obviously had a draft. We could talk about that in another time because the expansion draft did happen before ours. Our time is coming. But the Raptors got their stuff leaked, or sorry, the Toronto Tempo got their
Ah,
stuff leaked, and it is not Raptors related, which people asked about. Shout out to Rachel Snag, I think it is on Twitter. But yeah, shout out to Rachel, who also discussed this on, I think it's Chris Hoops, NBA space. I don't think Chris listens to my thing at all, but shout out to him as well. Runs a good space. What I was going to say is I was on his morning show, and Rachel and I were discussing this, and we had to point out to people that it's not going to be Raptors related because MLSC does not own any part of this team. It's Larry Tannenbaum's team, and there's some sort of separation. And I don't think Larry Tannenbaum wants to go argue with Mr. Edward when he's leaving that ownership group eventually, or has set up that to then use the rights to. It just gets messy. I still have questions in the future, and I know that they're working on securing a long-term home for the team, so that will get interesting because we've talked about from an NBA side of things what happens when you don't own your own infrastructure, and I'm sure that they will find a way to do that. But it is interesting. But Toronto Tempo is the name, and I'm going to put a link into the description as to the tweet so that people can look at the logo and all that. Bjorn, going to ask you first. Your thoughts. I have my own thoughts, but I'm going to ask you first.
okay, there's a term used in business sometimes. You'll hear the acronym HIPPO. Okay, and the term in this case for folks that are not in the business world or don't really deal with that world too much, it's really referring to the highest
Hmm.
paid paid opinion, essentially. So in other words, when you're in a group amongst the folks and you're making a decision about anything that's had any strategic decision about your company or your department or wherever it might be, whoever is making the most money in the room, their opinion ends up swaying the decision for everybody else.
So he who has the gold makes the rules, essentially.
Exactly. Right? For example, in the basketball world, for those that know, in this case, the draft, a classic example in this case here, has a Canadian tie. Stauskas? Stauskas, right? Stauskas. Perfect example. So, with that, with Stauskas to be an example of what that hippo set looks like, I think this logo, this the name, I think all of it smells of like highest paid person. And the reason why I say so is when I read the Toronto Star article and talked to Teresa Resch about this, she referred to a little comment in this case. And once again, if you're in corporate Canada or corporate America, you know exactly what I'm about to say, what this means. It was a good name that can be translated in both languages. That makes you feel so inspired in this case. It has nothing to do with anything being not francophone, nothing like that. But if you're thinking about what's the thing that's going to drive excitement, aspiration for a team, or provide a certain type of feel for the team, that's usually not the statement you're thinking of first. You're thinking first, like, what is it? Then you might have to say, okay, let's see how it works in French, if that's the case, or vice versa, see how it works in English. But if you're thinking of that as one of the attributes of it initially off the bat, then I already know where your head's at already. It's a very uninspiring logo. It's a very uninspiring name, quite honest with you. It doesn't evoke anything, be it Canadian or Toronto. It doesn't necessarily have to, but it's nice. Even the logo itself, to compare it to the Valkyries when it came out. The Valkyries, not only, fair enough, it's tied to the Warriors. Both are Warriors. I get that, female Warriors versus Grecian Warriors or whatever, or Roman Warriors, or whatever they might have for their logo. The point's not that. The point is when they made the logo for the Valkyries, they put the logo itself has all sorts of little tidbits and little Easter eggs about connections to the city and the history of the basketball in the city. And the Temple logo is a T with a bunch of things. It reminds me of like a bootleg New Balance logo. That's what it reminds me of. And I'm sitting there going like, dude, that's the best you came up with after all this time?
They really tried with the six things to try to make it happen, but as other people have pointed out, which I mean, yes, Toronto is still sometimes known as the six, but it's not. That's not really the colloquial term that's used right now. It's they could have done better. They could have made
Yeah.
little segments of, I don't know, the CN Tower or whatever. Like do that rather than having the logo in front of like a picture of the city.
Okay, right. Even you don't tie the C to the city. Let's look at just the logo itself and what the branding of the logo is. Let's take another Toronto team that recently got their logo done. The Toronto Scepters, which is the women's hockey team. That was well thought out in this case here. It wanted to show strength. It wanted to show something about power. The logo itself ties the T with the scepter in this case here. It's a nice looking logo. The colors look popping. Like that there was to put some thought into that. It's like Toronto Scepter's like, okay, I can get down with that. The hat will look cool. The logo will look cool. You're probably going to have some dude in this case here, what sword rolling around in this case in the ice rink. You can sell that.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck a pacer is.
Right,
We're gonna have the dude from Soul Train or something.
Well, the Pacer in this case at least is a car because the Indianapolis 500 that ties in the city.
Yeah, sorry, I meant tempo.
Right. The tempo in this case, I don't know
It
what
looked like the Pacer logo. That's why I have the Pacer in my mind. I'm like, man.
I mean, the most of Indy ain't that tied to Toronto in this case here. Maybe that's what they're going for. I don't know how you evoke that into like other stuff in this case to actually sell merchandise when it comes to like a mascot of sorts. I don't know what it's gonna look like. Wish them luck, Coach. What's your thought? And, well, yeah, one last thing: the color scheme, muted and just dead in my mind. Like, there's nothing vibrant about that whatsoever. I don't see a bunch of kids running out here to get temple gear in this case with that color scheme. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like gray, maroonish, purplish,
bluish type of blue.
Yeah, it's very corporate.
Well, as I said before, if you look at West Hampton's uniforms and you watch EPL, that's kind of the feel you're getting, guys. Good luck to you with that. So be it. Coach, your thoughts of the tempo?
Don't mind the team name. The team name's never been quite an issue for me. Uh, when you're a coach, you're a player, you're always saying, well, we want to play up tempo now. There is something that is attractive to it from my standpoint about tempo. Everyone wants to play like the Phoenix Suns or the Golden State Warriors or the running Rebels of the 90s, I believe. Like there's something attractive, but that's why I can kind of see the tempo part. The logo, on the other hand, I mean, that just looks like they didn't have their best put into that. It doesn't stand out to me. The Raptors were created, or the team name came up with it, because there was a famous movie in the 90s in which my generation kind of saw as kids, and that was Jurassic Park. So we'll become the Raptors. And to that degree, I'm like, I kind of could see it at the time, you know? So the tempo name, I'm okay with it, but the logo, just to be simplistic about it, I'm not a fan of it. I hope that this is the first iteration of this team, that after a few years, when you have a new culture, new generation of the team, that the logo changes. And it has for the Raptors too in the last 30 years. We've seen 5 to 6 changes in what this logo looks like. And I expect the next time, just wait 4 or 5 years into the tempos uh, into the WNBA. It will change to something different, than that will be, I'm guessing, more eye appealing. So it's almost like we have to play the waiting game for the logo to get better. But here's the biggest thing though. The logo aside, the team name aside, this organization will put butts in the seats and eyes to televisions. I think there's going to be lots of people there every game. I think they're going to have big ratings. And obviously, one Miss Watkins at USC would really, really help with that.
I mean, based on the Valkyrie situation, they got the 5th pick. So I think that is not going to happen, unfortunately. But there's a lot. That draft's going to be pretty damn good, though, Coach. So there's a few other options.
I'm excited. I'm just thinking from an affordability standpoint as well. I know a lot of people have spoken about it's hard for the average person just to go to a Raptors game, even on like a Tuesday night in the middle of the winter time when you're paying hundreds of dollars. That's lunacy.
My company, I just wait. My company sent an email out this week, I guess now last week, saying they're getting new tickets now coming out for the Pelicans game. Oh yeah, the tickets in this case going for $101 each. And I'm like, you can sucker someone else for that, man. Good luck. First thing,
Yeah.
time shows up. That's the first thing. And I'm like, good luck trying to get tickets. $100 for $101. My apologies, for a Pelicans game.
I'm
Is that
going to the
Upper Bowl
Brooklyn
or
Nets game, and it's the first game that I've been to in like 3 years. Because the Brooklyn Nets game was the cheapest game I could find.
right?
I think it's mid-level, Kenyon. I think I've been there with some of those before. I think it's mid-level issue, but
Right.
level is
Right.
for $100 tickets.
Yeah, to the Pelicans. Yeah, it's woof. It's, I have a friend that wanted to go to the games with me recently. I'm embarrassed to say that I kind of kind of said like, yeah, maybe we'll see, and kind of like pushed it off because honestly, I can't afford to go. I
Right.
can't afford to go.
To your point, my wife had her company in this case here. One of their directors had tickets that mid-bowl range for a Utah game. Now, of course, in this case, Utah's never really a big draw. But
Mm,
she knew because I like hoops. I was like, okay, I'll go. Yeah, I think I'll go watch it. I think at that time, I think Mitchell was on the team. I think he just came on the team. He just drafted in this case with Gobert. It's like, yeah, I'll go watch Utah. What the heck? They're a pretty decent team. Those tickets were going for about $70 at the time, right? So if I suspect the case, I think that's the thing. There's a $30 bump up, and you say you're paying for a family of four. Yeah, to Coach's point, the moment that we got a team, I'm already looking forward to trying to go get tickets for that. I can actually take my family to it and go and actually watch a game in person, and be a fairly affordable still.
Yeah, it's different if the team is good. I understand it then. I went to when Kawhi Leonard was here. They played the Cavs one night. The Cavs were bad then. Let's just put it that way. But I understood about paying a little bit more expensive ticket because that was a championship team. You're promoting that, you're selling championship. What are we selling this year?
Hope, coach, hope.
Hope. Oh yeah, sorry, we're selling hope, right? I'm just saying, if you're selling hope, then try to attract a base of fans that will want that throughout the years to come. And then when they pay a little bit more, when you're good, it makes more sense.
That's not how these guys roll, man.
No, no, it's the baseline. I get it. All with the money.
Yeah, you're so altruistic.
Well, this is why I want to go to the Jays more this year because they're actually affordable tickets, and
So,
I don't know how their free agency is going to go, but I'm going to just assume
Well, I can make an announcement right now on this
that it's
show as
not.
Juan Soto is going to the Mets.
Okay,
ah,
so
16 years, $765 million.
no
okay,
wonder. Okay, we can
so
pass
tickets
on
are going to
that.
Sorry,
stay
fif
relatively
15
cheap.
years.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the second best thing that could happen to the Jays. He's out of the American League. Continue.
Okay. Well, there's some positivity there. Um, yeah, maybe I can afford Jays games, is what we're saying. So,
Get to the fun now, man.
yes, yes. So, moving along, now that we're done with the tempos, we're done with the week, we're gonna go into the second part of our discussion. And that has to do really quickly with the draft, and then after we'll see where we're at. In this draft, I'm going to ask both of you two questions. Really simple. We'll just discuss it really quickly and then move along. Um, if you were a GM, where is the hardest place to draft in this year's draft in the first round? And where is the easiest place to draft in terms of position?
In terms of position,
Yeah, draft position.
or draft position, okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Um, I think things could get a little awkward if things play out the way they look like they're playing out now. I don't think so, but part of me thinks it could get awkward around that 6 to 10 spot. And my rationale is this. I think a top five will start hardening up sometime, about the late January, maybe sometime in February. A top five might start getting formulated. I usually find that there's usually 4 of the 5 get firm, maybe 3 of the 5, but 2 spots are always sitting out there, depending what happens in March Madness. So they are always kind of floating out there. But I think we have the 3 for sure. That is a guarantee. They're not budging unless something horrendous happens, which I hope not. Those 3 are stuck. The last 2 spots are those 2 dancing chairs. I think can be moved around, but I think when it firms up, I think they'll be pretty solid as well too. it gets then to the now to the 6 to 10 spot. And the question you're asking yourself, if you're a GM or a president of basketball operations, is if are we picking guys in this case that can be franchise changers at 6 and 10 as well too? Is this draft this deep? That is the case. And then the reason why I say so is because if you're in 11, I'll put 11 to 15. There's players there that are less pressure on them to be franchise players, but potentially could be franchise players depending what happens. I can think of a couple guys right now that are kind of wavering around that area at the moment, some boards that might end up being backbones of franchising. But then there's some other guys I see right now that are in that top 10 right now, the back half of the top 10, that might actually be very good players, but I'm not sure they're franchise type of guys. So to me, I think that is a very uncomfortable position in this case if you're a GM or a president of basketball operations.
Okay. Coach.
The easiest for me is number one. It's Cooper Flag. You know what you're getting. Number one, two-way wings, versatile wings with high upside, typically equal contenders and or championships more often than not. So for me, number one. Number three to about 10 this year. And I'm putting it might be more 4 to 10, quite honestly, but I think things after two get can it depends on how this season goes, but I can see from 3 to 10, it's going to get a little tricky there. Now it might turn out the way that I envisioning it to be, that number three spot might be solidified, but I can more confidently say that one and two, in my opinion, are more. It's a bit easier to do as of now, but 3 to 10, way this draft looks, that's tough.
Yeah, I think for me, it's safest is one. I'm gonna zag a little bit from you both and say number two is the hardest because there's two guys. One of them might is slowly being discussed as a potential number one as well, but there's two guys, floor and ceiling, that are very, very interesting. And depending on your team and depending on the situation, it's a much more riskier uh, discussion at number two. Whereas number one, you take Cooper Flag, you go home, you celebrate, pop champagne, you're good. Some would argue that number one might be, but it doesn't have to be.
Is this not kind of playing out like the Wembyama draft?
Kinda, yeah.
Is it based on what you guys are saying?
Yeah. Except that Harper's a little taller.
Yeah, a little bigger. Yeah, I know.
And has a little bit, it's a little bit
Yeah,
dead, but yeah. But I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
hard V wing. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's so I think it'll be very interesting to see, what comes of that. Okay, do we have enough time to discuss really briefly just the one through or just an overview of the standings? Um,
Sure, I know in this case here you have many a sleepless night of these standings, Kenyon. Please go ahead.
Coach, how are you feeling about standings?
Do it.
You want to start in the West or go or start in the East?
Uh, we'll start in the East first.
Okay.
Get the
Uh,
least over with.
so I'm not gonna go through the actual like what each team has in terms of a win-loss record for the East until I get from say 7 to 10, maybe even and beyond. Okay, so Cavs, Boston, Orlando. They just lost Franz, which is a tough loss. Hopefully they get um, Paolo back soon. 4 is the Knicks. Atlanta, number 5. They have actually flown a little bit high this year so far. I knew that they would be better. I didn't know that they would be clicking this early, but it is a long season. But yeah, I'm happy to see them do their thing. Of course, after that we have 6 is Miami, 7 is Milwaukee, and basically Miami is 11 and 10. Milwaukee is 12 and 11. So those both are one game above 500. Then you have that's basically the line of demarcation of 500 teams. Um, 8, 9, 10, and 11 all have the same wins, just a different amount of losses. And that would be Brooklyn at 8. 9 is the Pacers. 10 is Chicago. And 11 are the Pistons. All of them have 10 wins and either 14 or 15 losses. We now move down to what is the rest of the East, which is 12, 13, 14, and 15. And that's it. So that would be Philadelphia and Toronto have the same amount of wins. Philly has less losses by 2. So they are essentially, I think it works out to be what, one game ahead in terms of the win. Like, we would have to win a game or a game and a half or whatever to overcome them from a standings wise. But they have surpassed us now officially yesterday. Or it might have been today actually, because I think they just won against Chicago, I want to say, but I'm not looking at the game right now. 108 to something was sorry?
200.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah. And then so both of them have 7 wins. The Raptors are 7 and then 17. After that, you have Charlotte, who I don't know if they won against the Pacers today. I believe they lost against the Pacers, but that
Nope,
is
they won.
okay. So then Charlotte has the same amount of wins. So this was actually taken before, like the picture that I'm looking at was taken before. So we might be the 14th team because I believe Charlotte beat us this year, right?
Please.
Twice? Okay. We are now the second worst team in the Eastern Conference. Sorry?
You are correct. I have this. I'm
Yeah.
looking up to this team, 14.
Yeah. Sorry, my headphones sometimes.
No problem. No problem.
And then after that, there is a gap before the Washington Wizards, who have 3 wins. They actually just got a win as well.
Yeah.
So they might actually, I might be wrong in saying that they have 3 wins. I believe they might have 4. If not, they have. Yeah, so they had a pool party recently, so that's good.
Boy, things change in 1 week, huh?
Boy, things change in 1 week, and they will continue to change as the different tiers of each conference, as well as the NBA at large, solidify. Let's talk about the West. West for the best, which I don't know if I agree with because, I would say that the top of the East at full strength can go up and match up decently well against some of these Western Conference teams. Just my opinion, but yeah. But we have OKC, who we just faced. There's some differences. I had my mother, bless her heart, she was like, "Is OKC supposed to be good? Because we're getting whooped." I said,
levels to this.
I said, "Mom, they were a second round playoff team last year, and we were not." And she's like, "Oh, that explains it." Thanks, Mom. Love you, Mom. It's good to visit. Yeah. My parents are very blunt. People think I'm blunt. Trust me. And then, of course, there's your Mavs, right? Number 2 in the West. So we just faced some good competition. As of today, so then the Grizzlies surpassed them. So then the Grizzlies surpassed. And again, I'm looking at an old photo from earlier this afternoon. So the Grizzlies, the Mavs. As far as this goes, Houston would be the 4th, and then goes Golden State. Houston, I'm glad to see them they made strides last year, but I know they were still getting it together, and I was hopeful for them. And I'm not a Fred fan, but I thought that they made good moves, and I think that they're poised to continue to make good moves regardless of them. It doesn't sound like they're planning on making a major move until the offseason, but trust me, if a Jimmy Butler comes available, they are poised to jump on it. And it makes a lot of sense. Golden State is 5. Shout out to Kuminga. Inside joke, people. LA Clippers are staying alive. And then, of course, you have the Minnesota, you have Phoenix, you have Denver, you have.
Denver's at Phoenix right now.
Okay, so that just flipped today, because yeah, Jokic has been going crazy.
They,
So,
they destroyed someone in the East that we were just talking about. Oh, Atlanta.
did if the Spurs did not win, which I was seeing at highlights, so they might have won, but right now
Spurs are
it's
11th right now.
okay. So the Spurs are still 11th, which means the Los Angeles Lakers are in the play-in at as far as I see it, 12 and 11 might be a little bit of a different thing, but then after that you have the Spurs, Kings, uh, and then you see a gap. You see the Trailblazers who are 8 and 15. So as far as tanking wise goes, the reverse standings, they're also beating us. And then you have the Utah Jazz and the really, really, really badly. I don't know if someone walked under a ladder or didn't find a penny or something like that, but the New Orleans Pelicans are tied for last in the West. Um,
Portland's ahead of us in this case here. We got a worse record in Portland percentage wise.
that's what. Well, looking at it the other way is that Portland just went above us, so right now we are. You're right, ahead of them in terms
Okay,
of the
yeah,
tank
that's what I'm
watch.
saying. Yeah, that's
So
what I look.
in yeah, so in terms of tankathon, I don't have it all in front of me right now, but if what we are saying is correct, that would say we are
We have
one,
the
two,
fourth
three,
best
four.
odds.
We have the fourth best odds, which means unless four teams move up in front of us, the worst that you would probably end up in is maybe the fifth. So we're right there if that's what you want, and if you're on the other side of that, you hope that the Raptors get back to winning.
Right,
Yes,
we could go higher up in the tankathon odds if I'm being honest, because I think at some point New Orleans is going to get healthy, right? And New
I
Orleans,
hope so
yeah, they will at some
for
point.
them.
And they're going to be better than us once they
I'm
get
not
healthy.
even saying for me. I'm just saying like I don't like to see teams be hurt. It's
Yeah,
not
oh,
it's not a fun
definitely
thing.
either. I mean, and so like from that perspective, and we already talked about Charlotte being in a similar situation.
Yeah,
As they get guys back, they're going to be better than us as they get guys back. That's just the way I see it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, we have the fourth best odds at a win percentage of 29.2%, which gives us a tie for the 45% of the time we will be uh, drafting in the top four, and we have 11.5 uh, percentage chance to draft the number one overall pick.
I'll
The
tell you.
only way you get higher is one spot higher, and all of those have the same, which is 52. So more than half the time, as a coin flip, you're winning the coin flip. You're in the top four, and you have a 14% chance to get in and draft Cooper Flag.
The Raptors already, man. If that ends like that at the end of the season, the Raptors were gonna get the fourth pick. And that's
Yeah,
it.
I the way that I see it is, well, no, 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 no. We won't draft. We'll draft third.
No, we won't draft third, man, because the Raptors will be always on the outside in this case. When we get the fourth pick,
Yeah,
and then all hell breaks loose in the fandom, the papers, you name it.
you
Because
right. I see. And then
yeah,
then it's like, do we trade back? Blah blah blah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
but in
Yeah.
reaching for
That fourth
something,
that fourth that fourth pick though is still going to be a good one, I think too, in my opinion, because
Very, very much so.
I got two or three guys there who I'm just like
who I like with the fourth pick.
I am excited about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
who I like with the fourth pick. I got no problem picking him.
He's one of the guys there for me. I got like three, maybe four. I'm just like,
yeah. After
interesting.
after this week, I think I've added a couple. I'm right now at like maybe two. Actually, one, two. Yeah, I'm at three right now. But we are not here to discuss that today. We will discuss prospects another day. So stay tuned on Basketball Rewind. Stay subscribed. Please give us a like if you like us. If not, comment down below. If you really like us, comment and like. Stay tuned. Stay safe. Stay well. And take care. And enjoy basketball. Peace, people.